Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating high-stakes collision between cutting-edge AI technology and government bureaucracy. We are going to explore this massive, glaring disconnect between commercial AI benchmarks and the strict zero room for error reality of public sector deployment. It's a phenomenon known as the sovereign agent paradox, and trust me, whether you work in tech or not, this impacts absolutely all of us.
So let's just jump right in with the big question. Are autonomous agents actually ready to handle the rigorous demands of public administration? I mean, we hear all the time about AI passing the bar exam, or writing complex code, or navigating the web perfectly. But when it comes to managing things like tax processing, environmental permitting, or social welfare distribution, the bar is just completely different. It's not just about getting the right answer at the end, it's about exactly how you get there.
To put this into perspective, researchers recently did a massive audit of the landscape. We're talking over 1,300 benchmark papers evaluating agentic systems. And you know how many met all the necessary criteria for public sector use? Zero. Exactly zero. Not a single one. That means our current technical evaluations are profoundly decoupled from what the public sector actually requires to function legally. Part 1. The rules for public sector AI.
You know, the crazy thing about government work is that a decision made using an unauthorized shortcut, it's legally invalid. Even if the final outcome is 100% correct, and even if it saves a ton of time. In a standard tech benchmark, if an AI agent successfully books a flight or writes a functioning script, it gets a passing grade. But in public administration, there is a strict legal mandate for process legitimacy, political neutrality, transparency, and impersonality. Legally speaking, the how is just as important as the what.
So, researchers actually dug into public administration literature and pulled out 4 non-negotiable criteria for a valid evaluation. First, it has to be process-based, meaning it measures those interdependent subtasks along the way, not just the final output. It also has to be realistic, using real-world data, and specifically focused on tasks actually done in the public sector. And finally, it can't just report a basic accuracy score. It has to measure things that genuinely matter to public accountability, like cost and fairness. Which brings us to Section 2, missing metrics, specifically cost and fairness. And wow, this is where the governance blind spot gets downright scary. A staggering 77.6% of those analyzed papers completely ignore both cost and fairness. We have brilliant researchers building these complex autonomous systems to interact with sensitive human environments, yet fewer than 2% even bother to measure fairness. Think about that for a second. Actually, wait, it gets worse. Out of the more than 1,300 papers audited in this research, literally just one single paper, reported both cost and fairness metrics. This is a severe deployment risk for our public institutions. If government officials are using current benchmarks to decide if an AI is safe to deploy, they are flying completely blind when it comes to statutory administrative procedures. All right, let's move to Section 3, Anatomy of Agent Failures. To understand why this is happening, we've got to look under the hood. Modern agentic systems are basically built on 5 highly interconnected layers. At the bottom, you have the baseline infrastructure and action layers that actually execute tools. But above that, things get incredibly complex. You have knowledge for memory, intelligence for reasoning, and then this overarching orchestration layer that governs multi-agent coordination and dynamic execution. Now, researchers studied over 400 fixed bugs across major frameworks like LangChain, AutoGen, and Crew AI, and they found a massive shift. Unlike the older LLM pipelines where data processing was the main bottleneck, modern bugs are heavily clustered at the top. 25% are in the intelligence layer, and 20% are in the orchestration layer. The system isn't failing because it can't read the data anymore. No, it's failing because it's mismanaging its own autonomous decision loops. Because agents are running these complex autonomous loops now, we're seeing totally new, highly specialized symptoms of failure. Traditional string matching benchmarks just cannot catch these things. An agent might output the right final answer, but on its way there, maybe it exhibited unexpected execution sequences or completely ignored user configurations, or maybe it suffered from cognitive context mismanagement and just lost the thread of what it was supposed to be doing. In government, that's not just a glitch, that is a full-blown procedural crisis. Okay, Section 4, the agent as a judge solution. So what's the fix? Well, we need a complete paradigm shift. We have to ditch those old, static benchmarks. You simply cannot just check if a final output matches a text string anymore. Instead, we need dynamic agentic evaluators. These are AI agents designed specifically to verify the intermediate processes of other AI agents. They use multi-round planning and step-by-step alignment to audit the entire trajectory of the task from start to finish. Frameworks like Clawbench put this exact idea into practice by acting as an agent as a judge. They basically capture all 5 layers of behavioral data. We're talking network traffic, screenshots, keystrokes, the whole shebang. Then they explicitly compare the AI agent's path against a human reference, step by step. And it doesn't just spit out a lazy pass or fail. It actually gives a structured justification of exactly where the agent went off track. And honestly, it's wild how fast this specific field is maturing. These evaluator agents started out super basic, just procedural and reactive judges following static, predefined rules within fixed decision spaces. But now, we're looking at self-evolving judges. These are highly adaptive systems that can dynamically synthesize their own grading rubrics on the fly and update persistent memory logs to catch subtle reasoning errors in real time. It's like having a master auditor that gets smarter with every single case. When you combine capabilities like multi-agent collaboration to strip out bias, deep planning, and long-term memory, you completely transform the evaluation process into a secure, autonomous powerhouse. This is absolutely crucial, because this is how you audit those invisible micro-decisions happening inside the AI's orchestration layer, and how we can actually begin to guarantee public sector compliance. But hey, let's take a step back and remember why this actually matters. The stakes here are just incredibly high. As the research clearly states, deploying unverified autonomous systems in government isn't just a technical oopsie. When an agent hallucinates a procedural step or bypasses a legal requirement in a public administration setting, it is a direct, tangible threat to citizen trust and democratic stability. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly critical question to ponder as this tech races forward. If our current benchmarks are fundamentally broken and 1,300 studies completely miss the mark, we have a mountain of work to do. Before we let agents govern our institutions, how on earth will we build the systems required to govern the agents? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it gave you a powerful new framework for thinking about the future of AI in the public sector. Catch you next time.